All right, hello and welcome to this year's or this semester's Master's Induction event. My name is Tom, and together with Jan, I'm going to present you some quite important information on how to study here in Heidelberg, how to do a master's degree. I myself study computer sciences in the master's here, but I've already done my bachelor's degree here in Heidelberg, so I know quite a fair bit of the structure, how the organization works here in Heidelberg.
As Tom already mentioned, my name is Jan. I'm studying physics here as a master student. Also, I've been here for quite some years now, exactly, and I'm going to do the second half of this talk and the physics specialized part afterwards.
So first thing that we have to mention is that we're going to record this talk because there are some students who can't attend this talk live. And also some students don't have a proper internet connection, so they want to watch this video later. It shouldn't be any problem because as long as you don't turn on your video, you are not recorded at all. The chat is not recorded. So feel free to use the chat. And you can also turn on your camera if you want to, but probably for the talk, just leave it off. Later on in the breakout rooms that we're going to create, I highly encourage you to turn on the cameras, but for the moment, just keep them off so we can simply record this talk. As already mentioned on the slides down here, you can find the slides themselves online under this URL. I've already posted this into the chat. Feel free to open the slides there as well. So in this talk, we're going to cover some useful information for you, but there will be, perhaps depending on your fields of studies, there will be another induction event from your faculty or institute where you will have some more specific information and proper introduction into how your studies work. But in our event here, we now cover the basics of where to find what kind of information and basically how to study in Heidelberg without going too much into detail of all the different subjects. So as you can see on the outline slide here, we'll first cover what type of modules we have here in Heidelberg and basically how to study here. So what is the organization, how do you enroll into tutorials or lectures and stuff like that. Then we'll give you a short overview of where all the locations, also all the lecture halls or seminar rooms are located in Heidelberg. This might not be that important at the moment because everything is online anyways, but probably later on when you come to Heidelberg, then you want to know, okay, where exactly do I have to go for my lectures, or where can I get some lunch in the canteen and stuff like that. Well, and we also tell you some important information of whom to ask if you've got any questions regarding your studies. So what are the first persons you might want to contact, and also some other useful information for studying in Heidelberg at the end. And as I already mentioned, afterwards we'll have a short Q&A session where you can ask questions, just general questions regarding studying in Heidelberg. And then after that, we're going to split up into breakout rooms. So one breakout room for every subject, so mathematics, physics, computer science, technical, so computer engineering, technical computer science, and also scientific computing. And this is probably the best room to ask subject-specific questions later on, and also to get to know each other and have some social interaction. Feel free to ask questions at the end of this talk because doing it at the same time while we're presenting might be a bit difficult with this chat here. All right, some of you might have already seen something like this. So this is just a table from the physics module handbook where you can see, okay, in which semester, which modules you might want to choose. So this is just a suggestion. But yeah, then you see there are some module names and some credit points and also some links And yeah, you probably wonder, okay, what are these types of modules? What do I have to do there? Is it like a lecture, or is it like a seminar, or what is it? And how does it take place in Heidelberg? And this is what we cover in the first section here. So lectures are probably the main type of studying here in Heidelberg, so the main type of modules. They have little interaction, unfortunately, especially nowadays when they're all online. It's quite a little bit of interaction. But sometimes lecturers really encourage you to interact as well. They use the polling tools, to use the chat, stuff like that. So sometimes you've got the opportunity to interact, but it's mostly just the lecturer presenting some slides or giving a talk or a Blackboard talk. That's what lectures are. They have quite a variety of different sizes. So some lectures have only 10 students, some have 200 and plus students. It really depends on the lecture. Usually you don't really have to go there, but of course it makes sense to go there, because this is where you get all the content of your module presented in a nice manner, often, not always, but often. And so yeah, but you don't really have to go there if you have the feeling that it's easier to read the book or I don't know, just do the tutorials. But yeah, I strongly encourage you to go to the lectures, even if they're just online. At the end of a lecture, there's usually a written or an oral examination, and only this examination determines your grade of the module. And during the term, you have to solve problem sheets, which are, at least in some form, mandatory. Often you have to solve them to collect some points, and only if you reach a certain threshold of, I don't know, 50% usually, then you're allowed to take the exam and write the exam in the end. So you have to be active also during the term already. Each lecture is normally accompanied by tutorials, and these tutorials are the space where you can recap a little bit and where you can really ask questions and learn the content of the module. So this is where the interaction takes place. The tutorial is usually run by a PhD student or by some postdocs, and only have about 20 students, sometimes more, sometimes less. It really depends on the current situation. Sometimes it's, you have to go there, but it really depends on the module, how the regulations are there. In the tutorials, you discuss the problem sheets every week. So this is often the place where you get the solutions to your problem sheets, where you can ask questions about the grading, about your points that you get. And yeah, of course, here's the best place to ask any questions to the tutor about the lecture's content, because in large lectures, the lecturer doesn't really have the time to answer all the questions. So it makes sense to do this in the tutorials. Another type of module are the seminars. This is where you are a lot more active. So you're preparing talks and then give the talk in a seminar to, I don't know, 5 to 15 students roundabout. Usually you have to attend these modules because, of course, you have to present your talk there. And of course, if you want to present your talk, it doesn't make sense if there's no one in the audience. So this is why everyone has to go there. The registration really depends on the seminar. Sometimes it's already at the end of the preceding semester, but usually it's in the beginning of the semester. And also depends a little bit on your subject. Sometimes you have to write a report afterwards. Sometimes you have to write a handout and prepare this before your talk. Really depends. Have a look how this works for your seminar. But usually you have to do some sort of written thing as well, in addition to your talk. Then there are practicals, especially in computer science. There are some practicals. Usually there are no fixed time slots to do this. A lot of students also do this in between 2 terms, so over the summer, for example. But these practicals are taking place within the university, so in different working groups. Usually there is some kind of introduction meeting at the beginning of the semester, but yeah, have a look how this is handled this year. Probably there will be some online session where you can just get to know some practicals and then can decide which one you want to take. And be a bit careful, there are different types of practicals, usually beginners and advanced versions. For master students, you can only take the advanced versions. Just simply check on that you get the right module. So, and in some of your subjects, there's also this application area. So, for example, in computer sciences. And this is a bit special because you're studying some modules from a neighboring field, for example, chemistry or biology, medicine, but you can also take some economics classes or some law classes if you want to. So this really needs to be something different to your main study subject. There are a lot of possibilities. Just have a look into the module handbook. They are listed in there, but you can also, if you really want to, study your own application area, but then you have to ask the Board of Examiners if you're allowed to do this, and then have to hand in a structured list of which modules you want to take and which course you want to take them, and then you have to agree that it makes sense to do this in this course with your head of examiners board. So in some courses, there are also these key competences. So they're not directly subject related, but more like soft skills. And they're usually not graded. But yeah, you can choose a large variety of different things. Like if you want to learn another language, do some language courses, you can just take them, and those courses count towards these key competences. You can also do a semester abroad. Usually this also counts, or do some other soft skill courses, or just do a course from another subject as well, which might make sense. I don't know, depends on your interests. So in the end, you're going to do a master's thesis. This is probably the main module of your master's. And you have to ask a couple of questions to yourself before you choose where to do this master's thesis. So first of all, which field of your subject interests you most? Depending on this, you can already get to know some lecturers perhaps during the next 4 semesters here in Heidelberg, and then probably join their working group to do the master's project over there. Then there are different institutions. So you can do your final thesis within the university, but you can also go to some other institutions that are based in Heidelberg. For example, the German Cancer Research Center or the Max Planck Institute, because they are affiliated with the university as well. So you also have the opportunity to go a bit away from university into some more applied areas and do your thesis over there. Then, of course, you have to ask yourself which lecturer should be your supervisor. It makes sense to know the supervisor before you start your master's thesis, perhaps through a seminar or through some practicals, I don't know. At least you should have attended a lecture of this supervisor. And also have a proper relationship with your supervisor, because if you don't really keep in touch, then they can't really supervise you. So write emails with your supervisors, so to make it as easy as possible for the supervisors to keep an eye on what you're doing in your master project and how you're making progress. So I already mentioned it makes sense to take related modules, and there are some other regulations. Sometimes have a look into your regulations for your studies to check if there's anything special. Cool. Then the next section is how to study in Heidelberg. So what's probably the workflow to get into the modules and where you can find all the modules. So there are different websites and platforms we use in Heidelberg, and it's a bit complicated in the beginning to find some structure in there. This is why we're presenting this information to you. But yeah, to start easy, there is this LSF. So LSF stands in German for Lehre, Studium, Forschung, so teaching, studies, and research. And this is the main platform from the university where they list all the modules they offer each term. And this is also where you can handle some of the organizational stuff like paying your student fees every term, or finding your transcript of records and stuff like that. So you usually first of all have a look in here and see what lectures and seminars and practicals are offered this term. And in the LSF you can already find some additional information like links to websites of this lecture, or when the lecture is taking place, or where it's taking place. So sometimes they already have the websites of all the links of all these online lecture halls that you can already find in the LSF. But sometimes you can't find that much information in the LSF. Then you have to look into the other platforms as well. So first of all, there's this Moodle platform. A lot of you might already know this from your bachelor's degree. So this is where most of but not all of the modules have their e-learning space. So lecturers sometimes upload their slides up there, or the problem sheets are uploaded there, but it really depends on the lectures here. Also have a look on Moodle if you can find your courses over there. Sometimes you need an enrollment key for the modules, but you usually get them in the first lecture that's taking place. For the tutorials, our faculties have different systems. So the math and computer science faculty has this Müsli platform, and the physics department has this Übungsgruppensystem platform. So this is usually where you enroll for your tutorials. And it's a bit special in Heidelberg, but you usually don't enroll for lectures, you just enroll for your tutorials, because this is how the allocation takes place. You only really enroll into your module once you want to take the exam, and this is usually asked somewhere in January. So until then, you don't really have to say which modules you're taking, so you just start your modules. You can choose quite freely in your masters, and then you're registering for the exam somewhere in January, and this is the point where you say, okay, I take these modules. So in the beginning, you just have to enroll for your tutorials, because the faculties need to calculate how many tutors they need. Oh, and usually students ask the question, what to do if they don't have a university account yet. So for the LSF and for Moodle, you unfortunately need, and also for the Übungsgruppensystem, you need your university account. For the Müsli, you can just register with your own email address and probably change it later on once you've got your university account. If you don't have an account yet, our administration in Heidelberg is quite slow at the moment, because all the new students register here, and it takes some time until all the applications are processed, but you'll probably get it within the next couple of weeks. For the beginning, probably try to find some fellow students who share the lecture slides with you, or probably even record the videos if you can't make it yourself to the lectures. But yeah, try to help out each other so everyone can attend the lectures and the online materials. Especially in these difficult times at the moment, it's important that you can access them, although the university administration is not the fastest at the moment. So what's out there? First of all, there are a lot of FAQ pages. If you've got questions, try to find the answers in these FAQ sections. I know it's quite tedious work to go through all of them and find the information somewhere, but usually the information is somewhere out there. If you can't find it, just write an email to your lecturers, to the Students' Council, to other persons to ask. But first of all, try to find the information yourself on the FAQ pages. Then there are some other utilities you might want to use. If you're in Heidelberg at university, you can use this eduroam. Probably a lot of you already know this network. And yeah, to set it up, simply Google eduroam University Heidelberg, and then you get the first result will be some manual for how to set it up. Once you've got your university email address, you can also simply Google how to set this up and how to get this into your email client. If you want to, you can also use the web interface, which is a bit better at the moment. It used to be quite a bad interface 3 years ago. And if you want to print something, university, you can go on drucker.uni-heidelberg.de and just simply upload your files there, then go to university and go to any printing station, and then you can print your documents over there. But probably at the moment, you don't really need all of these because everything is going to be online. So, and once you've got your student ID card, this will be your entry pass for quite a lot of things. First of all, you can use this ID card to pay at the printing stations for your sheets. Then you can use it for the canteen to pay for your food. But you can also use it for public transport. After 7 p.m. and on weekends, you can travel for free in Heidelberg and also in the entire transport area here around Heidelberg. So you can go on the weekends, you can go to Mannheim or Würzburg, for example. This is quite a neat thing. So you finance this indirectly with your semester fees. But yeah, this is quite a cool thing that you can simply use your student ID card to get home in the evenings and travel a bit on the weekends and public holidays. All right, this is a map of Heidelberg. So here you can see the River Neckar. And this on the left here is the campus Neuenheimer Feld. This is where you've got the clinic and all the natural scientific departments placed somewhere here. Over here is the zoo. And this here is the old town of Heidelberg. So here's the university administration. And yeah, basically these are the two main areas where the university is located. There's also a bit of university over here, and also at the Philosophenweg. We'll cover this in the next couple of slides. So we zoom a little bit into the Neuenheimer Feld. So this is the area where you will probably be most of your studies once you can attend lectures in presence. And over here, you've got the Mathematikon. So this is where the computer science and mathematics department is located, and also the scientific computing center is located over there. There's only a small lecture hall down there and some seminar rooms, but for the master's courses, probably everything is going to take place somewhere in this building. For physics, you've got the Kirchhoff Institut für Physik, so this KIP. And oh yeah, also all the buildings here have these strange numbers. Once you're on the campus, after a couple of days, you get the feeling for how these numbers are structured. So the Mathematikon was 205, KIP is 227, and yeah, you've got this checkboard pattern with rows and columns, and it's either the decimal number or the hundreds that goes up in each direction. You'll figure out how this numbering system works. So yeah, here in the KIP and the Physikalisches Institut are all the physics working groups, especially experimental physics. And over here, there's the library at the moment. But in the next couple of years, there's a lot of construction going on this campus, especially here in the center. They built a new lecture hall center, and then the library will also move over here into the center of the campus. The canteen is placed over here. So you've got a short way to the canteen if you want to take some lunch over there. And I think it's even open at the moment still. So if you're somewhere in Heidelberg and want to get some food, you can go there at lunch times. It's quite cheap food, so if you can cook yourself, but often the prices are so little, it makes sense to go to the canteen if you don't have a lot of time. The theoretical physics departments or institutes are placed over here at the Philosophenweg, which is quite a nice area of Heidelberg. You've got the views over to the old town, and also the buildings are quite nice and old. So, and last but not least, the Central University Library is located here in this red building. So it's quite an old, nice building. But yeah, most of the books that you require are somewhere placed in the institute libraries or in the library on the campus, Neuenheimer. So this library is probably not the best location for you to get your books, but there are a lot of nice rooms where you can study in small groups, for example. So if you're interested in doing this, you might want to go to the Central University Library. This red building here is where the university administration is located, and this other red building over here is the canteen in the old town, which is a quite nice building as well, and they've got quite long opening hours normally. I don't know, at the moment they probably also just have short opening hours.
Okay, so this is the part where I take over to talk. And yes, that worked exactly. So now we're going to talk a bit about the topic of where you can get certain kinds of information concerning your studies. You may have questions, you may have issues that you need to address. And of course, there are many different people that can help you with these. So we'll try to inform you which are the appropriate people for what. First off, quite important probably, are the academic advisors. These people are professors in a normal job, but basically as a side activity, they do advising on students. Normally, there is definitely at least one for each degree, even if it's a small degree. For degrees with lots of students, of course, there are probably several of them. It's easiest to just Google Fachstudienberater or Fachstudienberatung and the name of your subject, and then you should easily be able to find them online and their contact information. So what kind of things can you ask academic advisors? I mean, obviously, they are primarily there to inform you about academic things. So things like how to choose your courses, what kind of specializations there are. But I would say also, if you want some general advice in which direction you could or should take your degree, maybe what's advantages of different kinds of specializations, what kind of methods do they use, maybe even what some perspectives in this kind of subject later on. They are definitely the people you can talk to. You can also talk to them about, like it says here, clarification of formalities. They are generally aware of how your degree is structured, what kinds of things are necessary and what needs to happen. I would say if you have a really detailed, specialized question, they may not be the best person to ask. So if you have I have module XY here and I would like to do it in my studies, is it formally possible or something like this? You should probably ask someone else, but we'll come to that. And also, but if in a general sense, you have maybe some unusual idea of what you want to study, something that fewer people do or something like that, I think it's a good idea to talk to them beforehand and get some general guidance and what they think about it. Normally, you can contact them by email, which you will find online. Since these are professors that do other things on the side, not all of them answer all of your emails immediately. So if they didn't answer an email after a few days, they would maybe just write them another email. Don't take that personally. They're not all organized perfectly, and they're not administrative people. So yeah, exactly. Then there's another important institution in each of our subjects. That's the examinations office. So the examination office is, in a one sense, really an office where administrative people sit and take care of things that need to be done administratively in our degrees. There's also the head of the examinations office. That's a professor, and he makes many of the decisions regarding what kind of things should be allowed and should be able to be done in our degrees. And then there's the examination board, which is also chaired by the head of the examinations office, and they make very general decisions about how things are done. If you need something from them, which all of you will in some point of your studies, you can find them in the Mathematikon for mathematics, computer science, scientific computing. And if you do physics or the applied computer science, then that's in the Kirchhoff Institute in the KIP on the ground floor. So again, what are the kind of things that you can do there? They're generally responsible for the acknowledgement of modules. This is mainly a concern if you go abroad for a semester and want to take modules back to Heidelberg. Then there's forms you have to fill out and so on with them. But also if you have maybe a module of a subject in Heidelberg that's not very common to take in your course, then you can also contact them, ask if that's possible and how to do this, basically. There's also normally, at least in physics, I don't know about all of them, they also have information on their websites about formal matters. So if you click through their website, you can look for an FAQ or something like that. Many times there's a lot of relevant information there that can probably answer some of your questions beforehand. All of you will have to go there at one point to register their master thesis, but this is not very complicated. They have a form for that, you fill it out and you hand it in. And if you're studying physics, there's also the specialization exam that's called M4MOT. There you have to go through a similar registration process. Exactly, and depending on what kind of issue you have, you talk to different people in this examinations office. If it's just a very administrative question in the sense of where do I have to put this piece of paper to register my master thesis, probably the administrative people in the office will be can help you. If it's a basic question about the acknowledgement of some module, normally the head of the examinations office has like some hour in the week where you can talk to him and discuss this with him. And if it's a very big issue, or if it's a very general issue, then this will maybe be taken to the board of the examination office and may take a bit longer. But normally you don't have to initiate that. Just go to the office and ask them what you should do if it's unclear to you. Finally, yes, already went through that. Exactly. So then finally, there's the student representatives. That's of course us giving these talks. We're the Fachschaft. We have a room in the Mathematikon in the first floor above the library. You might find it a bit difficult to go there right now, but if the Mathematikon is open again in an unlimited fashion, you are of course gladly invited to come visit us there. We can help you with advice regarding most problems or issues you may run into. Of course, we are not specialized in anything, so we may not always have the answer for you, but if we do not have the answer, we can very certainly tell you who has the answer and who you can go to and ask your question next. So you can consider us kind of like a meta advisors, at least, that can point you in the right direction always. There's of course also another dimension to what we do. We sit in committees together with the faculty and the professors, and we try to support students' interests, to make our voice heard, to improve studying in Heidelberg, and many such things. So if you're interested in how that goes, or if you have some concern that you would like to have raised in university committees, you can also come to us and we can talk to you about that and address that, maybe, depending on what it is. Exactly. If there is something that's not just related to the subject matter you're studying in, so not just mathematics or physics or something like that, but regards all of the university, there's also a central student representation, der Studierendenrat, or Stura for short. They have an office over at the Philosophenweg and also kind of a student parliament and many such things. You can also look through that in the internet, but yeah, if there's some general issue about the university you would like to address or get involved with, then Stura is the place you can turn to in good trust. Okay, but of course, while you're here studying, there are also other things that have to be taken care of and that should be done while you're here. So let's talk about some of the daily life aspects of a student in Heidelberg. So one very important institution for that is the Studierendenleben. Tom already talked about this for a bit. But this is the organization that runs all the cafeterias of the university in Heidelberg. They also run most of the official student housing of the university. They have counseling offers. They administrate the BAföG distribution and so on. They also, so generally they have a lot of what I would call service offers regarding your student life here. So you can surely just go to the website, and if you have any question or any concern that's also more concerning your general life, you can click through the website, see if they have something that helps you, or maybe just something that's helpful. I mean, many of you have maybe already seen this like online board where they post up flats and places to live. So that's very practical, of course. And they are also responsible for hosting social and cultural events for students. Again, this is a bit difficult right now, of course, because they can't do many events that happen like in their event locations. But if it is possible, again, you can look at it, and there are like small concerts, cultural events, public viewings, these kinds of things. It's actually quite nice. And of course, because it's made for students, they have some tax benefits, and all of it's quite cheap. So that's definitely, for the most part, a very attractive thing to do. Then you may also want to get out of your flat at least a little bit in Heidelberg. And there's one thing to be said about that bicycle is by far the most pragmatic way to get around in Heidelberg. Most routes in Heidelberg can be traversed with a bicycle faster than by a public transit or maybe even a car. So if you do not have a bicycle yet, I would heavily recommend you get one. It can be a used one or something. Heidelberg is a very flat place. It's not difficult to drive a bicycle around here. If you only need a bicycle for very short amounts of times and not bigger tours, you can use this VRN Next Bike service. It's a bike sharing service. The nice thing is, as a registered student of the University of Heidelberg, you can use it for free for the first 30 minutes. You just have to make an account with them. Then you have to authenticate your student status in some way. But then you can just take a bike from one of their stands, use it for free for the first 30 minutes. And to be honest, you get pretty far in 30 minutes in Heidelberg. So that's actually quite an attractive offer. If you own a bicycle yourself and it has some issue and needs to be repaired, of course, you can take it to a bike shop. You can also take it to the Urmel, which is basically a repair shop for bicycles. The special thing is there's no repairman who's doing the work for you, but you have to repair the bike yourself. But there's tools and specialized things for bike repair. So you don't need to buy specialized tools yourself. You can just go there, and they have practically everything you could need. It's towards the north end of the university campus in the neue, but again, just Google them and you'll find them. And yeah, so if your bike has a flat tire or something like that, you can go there and fix up your bike. And that's a nice opportunity to just do this yourself in a cheap way. Of course, going by bicycle may not always be an option if you're not up to going by bicycle in the snow or something like that. Of course, there's also public transit in Heidelberg. With your student ID card, you can go into the public transit for free at certain times, namely past 7 p.m. on weekdays, and on weekends you can use your student ID as a public transport ticket and don't need to buy a regular ticket. If you want to use it during the day on weekdays, then you would need to buy a normal ticket. Of course, there's also the alternative of buying a so-called semester ticket, which grants you, if you buy it, you can take the public transit during all of the semester for about 160 euros. To be honest, it's not especially attractive, I would say. It's not that cheap. And the problem is the area in which you can take the public transit is a bit weird. But check it out for yourself. Maybe this is relevant for you if you live farther away from Heidelberg or something like that. It's definitely something worth looking at for some people. What else can you do in Heidelberg? Of course, you should use the time you're not studying in some way, maybe. Again, many of these offers are hard to take, to use right now, but let's just mention them in general and hope we can all use them again as soon as possible. There's, of course, the thing that's called Hochschulsport in German, which is just the university sports offer. So there's many different kinds of sports you can do. You can take courses on certain specialized sports you might want to learn, or there's just maybe there's just a space given where you can meet up with other people and then practice a sport together. And yeah, you get basically the tools you need to do it and so on. So there's many different kind of sports and offers there. Google Hochschulsport, check it out, see if there's something for you. There's also, of course, many other social activities surrounding the university. There is specialized student groups of many manners. And some things to maybe especially mention is there's a university choir, a university orchestra, all these kind of things. Basically, if you have some kind of interest that you would like to pursue besides your studies, you can just Google and see if the university has a specialized group for that. There's a good chance that this will actually be the case. Then there's also, of course, theater and an orchestra in Heidelberg. There's a special deal there for this semester that students can visit this for free just because of their status as a student of Heidelberg University. I don't know. I think you have to book these free tickets in a specialized manner in the theater website. I'm not quite sure about that yet, but I would definitely encourage you to use that if it is reasonably possible with the virus at some point, because this is basically a trial semester for this. And of course, if they see that students really like to use this and that a lot of people are interested in this, they probably prolong this. And I think that would be a very nice thing. And of course, there's also other places in Heidelberg you can explore. The castle is, of course, a big tourist attraction. There's the zoo on campus towards the south side. The Neckarwiese is a nice, let's say, outdoor park area where you can meet up and socialize, mainly in the evenings and in summer when the weather is better. But yeah, and there's normally a Christmas market in Heidelberg. Let's see whether that happens this year. But yeah, this is also in many different places in the city and quite a nice thing to go to. Then, of course, there's also some things you have to take care of if you just want to live and work as a general citizen here in Heidelberg and in Germany. So you need to register with the local council within 2 weeks after moving into your flat. They are a bit strict about this, so I would encourage you to really do this. You're also legally obligated to do this. This is not, of course, I'm aware that this is not the case in every country, but here you have to register with your local council. In German, it's called Wohnsitzmeldung. But generally, if you look up on the internet side of the city of Heidelberg, you should find information regarding this. And if you're registered here and you are an EU citizen, you might also vote in local elections, which is, of course, nice. Then you can have a say in local politics. But as far as I'm aware, not in other kinds of elections in Germany. And you should, of course, also, if you come from abroad, check your health insurance or your general insurance that they are valid here, and look. And also, as a general topic for everyone, you can look, find a general practitioner or a dentist while you're here in Heidelberg that you can visit if you have some problem. Yeah, so I would advise just get ahead of this and yeah, check this out now while you have time for this. There may, of course, also be other obligations you have if you're staying here from abroad, like visum things and so on, but we don't really know anything about that. And so I would advise you to check up on that yourself and be aware of what you have to do there. Of course, if you want to earn some money, of course, you can try to get any general kind of jobs, but there's also jobs at the university, which are, of course, normally quite attractive because they happen at the university, so you can combine them with your studying in a good way, and normally they're also interesting in some way. You can, of course, be a tutor for exercise groups for undergraduate students and explain whatever subject you're studying. And normally you just apply directly to the institutes. They will have some kind of application page on their website where they are searching for tutors, and they basically search for tutors every semester. They always need some. You can, of course, also be research assistant in some kind of research group or at some kind of institute. This is, of course, very varied, so you'll have to look out for this yourself. And also sometimes there are administrative jobs in the university administration that are specifically tailored to students so that they have hours that are flexible, don't require any prior education, administration. And yeah, they are also generally, if that's more what you're interested in or what suits you, a reasonable way to earn money while you're studying at the university. Yes, exactly. So this was the part of the presentation where we talk. I think Tom can probably talk about what the further procedure is from here with proceeding. But yeah, exactly. Thanks for your attention in any case.
So thanks, Jan. The plan for now is to take general questions about studying in Heidelberg that are not subject related. So feel free to ask your questions in the chat, then we'll go through them one by one and answer the questions. And then afterwards, we'll split up into the subject-specific breakout rooms, and then you can ask your subject-specific questions over there, so you get all the information you really need and are interested to. And then you can also get to know each other in the subject-specific groups within your breakout rooms.
So I'm not quite sure. The question regarding deregistration. I'm not quite sure what you're meaning by that. Do you mean that once you registered for a course that you can deregister again?
Yeah. So I mean, I come from a different German city. So the system over there was we register for individual courses and the lectures, and there was a deadline generally for the winter semester on like January 10th or something, and you need to deregister yourself before that, so the course won't be counted as an attempt. That's what I mean.
Yes. So I can mainly talk for physics, but I think it's similar for the other subjects. There is no general deadline on this at our university. Normally, the courses have some internal deadline. So you just start registering at the start of the semester. And then normally during the course of the semester, there will be an email saying, if you do not want to have this exam count as an attempt, you have to register by the stage or something like that. But normally this is only later on during the semester, but I can't give you a general answer about that. Also, many of our IT systems don't really allow you to deregister yourself like that, but then just write an email to the head tutor and he will take care of it.
All right, perfect, thanks.
And it sometimes really depends on the lecture if it's an opt-in or opt-out registration system for the modules. So have a look on that. Where can I validate my student ID card? There are basically two places at the moment where you can do this. It's either the canteen, but you can only go there at lunch hours, or you can go to the Students Administration's office, so in the central student administration in the Old Town. There's also a validation machine. Do you usually sell Mate at the student's office? Well, we don't really sell it, but there is Mate, and you can put a certain amount of coins into one of these pigs, and then you can simply grab a bottle of Mate if you want to.
Yeah, I see there are quite several questions regarding jobs at the university. So generally, no, there is not a central website for job offers at the university. So normally it's more like you have to know at which institute you would like to work as a tutor or research assistant, and then you search for the website of that institute. This may be different for administrative jobs at a central university, but I'm not sure about that. Then there's the question about how these are paid. Normally they are paid according to some public state payment scheme. So you can search in Germany for, normally if you're master students, what you are is a geprüfte Hilfskraft. And I think the pay is somewhere in the area of 11 euros per hour, maybe. Correct, somewhere in that area. So a bit about above minimum wage, but not too much about minimum wage. So yeah, but this is public information.
So where do I register for practicals? That's a bit tricky. It depends on the practical you want to register for. Usually you just write emails to the working group and then you register by email. But have a look what they say on the websites. Or so, for example, in the LSF or on Moodle, sometimes you just register for a practical in the Moodle course. Really depends.
Yeah, there are also, yeah, basically, yeah, the question about registrations, basically you have to enroll in the tutorial for the lecture, then you normally end up on an email list, and further information regarding that lecture will be distributed via that email list. So whether there's any deadlines or for exam registration or something like that, just be sure to register for the tutorials at the beginning of the semester, preferably, I would say, in the first week or something like that, or before that, even if it's open, and then further information will be distributed to you.
I would suggest everybody to ask the tutors maybe in the 3rd or 4th week if you have not any email or something where all the informations are written. Maybe you're not part of this mailing list, or maybe this was discussed in a lecture where you weren't present. So I would assume that yeah, there might be a mistake or something, and it would be very sad if you can write the exam just because of any administrative faults.
So regarding the question from Fabian, yes, you understood that correctly, that you go to the LSF. This is basically the module catalog of the modules that are offered during this term, and then you just enroll for the tutorials and for the exam. And sometimes there also is a Moodle course where you should also enroll to get the slides and stuff like that. But yeah, you don't have to enroll for a lecture somewhere. So, and you do the enrollment for the tutorials in either Müsli or the Übungsgruppensystem, depending on your subject. And the exam enrollment usually takes place in the same system.
Yeah. Normally in the LSF, there should also be some link to a website of the lecture or something like that. So if that is there, follow this link. This will most definitely tell you all the information. Otherwise, math courses pretty much all register in Müsli. Physics courses, you register in the Übungsgruppenverwaltung of the physics department. So yeah, you'll have to search around a bit for that. I'm afraid there's no cut and dry solution.
So the question from Maya about the oral exam and if you choose the same examiner as your supervisor is simply physics related. Probably Jan can answer that.
I will answer this later. I will talk a bit about the specialization exam in the physics breakout room and answer questions then, if that's all right with you.
Good idea. So is there an internet page where the exam dates are published? Yes, there are sometimes web pages, but as you already asked in the next sentence, this is all organized individually, usually. So there's no central website where you can see all the dates. And there's also a bit of a problem because sometimes exams take place at the same time. So you have to take a bit care of that yourself, that there are no overlapping exams. But yeah, usually you can just avoid it if you just talk to your lecturers and say, oh, I've got another exam there. Yeah, sometimes the exam dates aren't fixed yet, so they probably figure out a date once they know how many students are taking the course. And especially at the moment, it's really unsure how the exams take place in February, if they do it online, if they do it here in Heidelberg, in which lecture halls. So it might take some time until we get the final dates of your exams.
I can maybe also give you a general rule of thumb if you're wondering whether something is centrally organized or individually organized for each lecture. In Heidelberg, it's always individually organized, everything. So if you come from a younger German university or some kind of Anglo-Saxon university, you're probably used to a very strict organization that the university imposes upon lectures. This is not the case in Heidelberg. Normally, for most things, there are almost no deadlines, and things are just handled as they come up. So if there's something that's unclear or not documented, just write an email to the head tutor or professor, and they will educate this in some way.
Regarding the question from Leonie, so there is no central information event where all the practicals are presented. So there's only different information events of each working group where they present their practicals they are offering. You can usually find the dates on their working group website. So simply have a look at the website of your institute and then go through all the working groups, and then you hopefully find under the teaching section, you find the dates of when these presentations take place. But this is probably also a good question that you can ask to the Dean of Studies in his welcome presentation. In the LSF, Fabian, you usually in our subjects don't enroll for anything at all. This is the LSF is mostly used by other faculties for their enrollment system. In math, computer science, scientific computing, computer engineering, and physics, you usually just enroll into the tutorials in the Übungsgruppensystem or in Moodle, and for the exam in the same manner. The LSF is a bit outdated, as you already see if you look at the interface. This is why our faculties don't really use it at all.
Yeah, there's a question from Cedric about doing research at other universities while studying here. I'm not quite sure I understand this correctly. So, I mean, general, of course, you can do things at another university. I don't think there's any problem with that. If you want to do research at another university as a part of your master thesis, then you would have to check up on that. You would probably at least need some kind of advisor in Heidelberg to get this accredited here. Also, you need to be a bit careful while you do your master thesis. There's a kind of rule that you can't be paid for the work you do for your master thesis. That's a formal requirement by law. So if there's some interference there, I would advise you to check up on that with the examinations office or someone else. But just in general, I mean, while you're here hearing lectures, you can of course do some research at another university. There's nothing prohibiting that.
So regarding the question of the final grade, yes, it usually is solely dependent on the final examination. So all the homework that we've done beforehand is only taken into account to get access to the exam. So you're only allowed to take the exam once you reach a certain amount of points on the homework. But there are some modules that have a project in the end, and then this project sometimes determines the grade. So have a look into your module handbook or just attend the first session of your lecture. This is where it's explained how this works for each module. But yeah, in most of the courses, only the exam in the end determines the grade. So where can I enroll for language courses? As Jan just answered in the chat, there's a website for this language department. Yeah, have a look how they offer language courses this year. I don't know, might be a bit different than the last years. Yeah, so Vanessa asked about how to enroll for an exam in the Übungsgruppenverwaltung. If you're in the Übungsgruppenverwaltung, there is normally no separate enrollment for an exam. You enroll for the tutorial. This is normally sufficient for enrolling in the exam. Of course, you probably have to do the homework exercises to the 50% and so on. There's some other procedure. The lecturer will inform you of that. If there is information, if there's no information in the Übungsgruppensystem about this, we'll talk in the physics part about how to handle this. So if you want to participate in online lectures, where can you find the link to participate? This again depends a lot on the lecture. So some of the lecturers already put the links into the LSF, where you can directly find the link. Some of them will send an email to all the students that register for the tutorials. So this is where you can get the link. Some of them will put the link somewhere in the Moodle course. So you have to enroll in the Moodle course first, and then you've got the link. Some of the lecturers will just put the link on their teaching website, their working group. So you have to do a bit of research to find the link. But if you want to attend a lecture and you don't have the link, simply write an email to the lecturers. They will probably answer them at some point. Yeah, there's also a question about being able to do exams remotely if there's a lockdown. We cannot give you a definitive answer on what's going to happen with regards to exams. The professors also don't know what's going to happen yet. But I can certainly say it is generally recognized at the faculty that there are people who cannot attend lectures and exams in Heidelberg because they're not able to get into Germany right now. So normally, I think there would be some kind of accommodation for remote exams. If there is no accommodation for remote exams, then write to the head tutor. Say you cannot physically come to Heidelberg, that it's impossible, or something like that. And then normally I would expect him to take care of this.
If he does not take care of this, then I would say probably go to the examination office, because I think it's quite clear that this semester it should be able to do exams remotely. But there's no clear procedure for this yet.
All right, I just had one more quick thing. Are all the courses supposed to be attended, like if you're not there, in principle, you can attend everything online? Is that true for physics? Or
for physics, I think this is generally true. I think for physics, right now, there will be this hybrid system where some people are allowed to be in the lecture hall each week and the rest is online. But I think under no circumstances will they not make it available online. This will always be the case.
That's really nice to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, I can't really guarantee this for the computer science and math faculty, but I think most of the modules can be attended remotely, so there shouldn't be any problem.
Yeah, so, there's a question from Leonie regarding whether research groups present themselves to invite students to make research there. This is generally not the case. In the past, actually, the Fachschaft, so we have organized such an event. It looks like this would be quite hard to do this semester, so I don't think it's going to happen. So yes, unless you hear something else, you probably just have to look it up online, and you'll have to do a bit of searching. That's not optimal, but yeah, I'm afraid that's the case this semester.
So the question from Jason regarding the Muesli system. The system encourages you to use your university email address, but you can also use your own email address first and then change it later on. Of course, it makes sense to use your university email address for all university systems, but you don't have to do this in Muesli. And all the other systems you have to.
Yeah, and also in the Muesli, there's some kind of field where you're supposed to put your student ID number, but you don't need to fill this field. You can just leave it empty and add it afterwards. You need to add it afterwards to get your grades, but yeah.
So quickly waiting for Fabian to type his question. And if there are not any general questions anymore, then we'll start the breakout rooms in a bit. And yeah, first of all, answer this question. Lecture room can be found the same way as the online link. Yeah, usually the same way. But the lecture rooms are usually also written in the LSF because the room booking system is connected to the LSF sometimes, but not always. For the tutorials, you will find your rooms in the Muesli or in the Übungsgruppensystem. This is usually not in the LSF.
So the question from Leonie, which kind of FAQ pages, this is also primarily referring to the examinations office of the physics degree. They have, so if you search for the Prüfungssekretariat and FAQ, then you find quite an extensive amount of information. I'm not certain that other degrees have this as well. So if you're not finding anything there, it may be that it just not exists.